started. So good morning, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. So this is our second iteration, and very excited to be speaking with Dr. Renu Zunjarwad, an esteemed UX researcher whose career is a testament to both innovation and leadership in the field. So super excited. Welcome, Dr. Renu. Super excited to have you here. Yes. So I'll give a little bit of an intro and then we can dive right into it. So Dr. Renu has built and led UX research practices from ground up, and she has had super impactful works at companies like Truckstop, Lenovo, where she was the lead UX researcher for Lenovo's product discovery office. And she established a new practice focused on high-risk technology projects. And beyond her corporate roles, Dr. Zunjarwad is also a dedicated mentor at WIND, Women Initiating New Directions, and an active voice in the UX community. So I'm personally a big fan of your writing. So I've been following you more and then reading some of your writing. So super insightful. And we'll have a link to the publications as well as your online presence in the Medium articles in the recording of the post. And I am your host, Prajwal. So I get excited about all things AI, and I'm also super passionate about the implications of AI in this research field. So if you have not already, please follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube, where we'll post this and future recordings, so you won't miss a future episode as well. So with that, let's dive right in. So Renu, what initially drew you to UX research, and how has it evolved for you over the years?
Is it working?
Yeah, it's working. Did you hear the question, or I can repeat it?
Yeah, please please let me know, because I think my internet glitched.
Oh, okay, I see. So yeah, I mean, I just gave a brief intro to yourself and the kinds of things you've done so far. So my initial starter conversation was like, what initially drew you to UX research, and how has it evolved for you over the years?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And first of all, I want to begin thanking Prajwal for this opportunity. I'm so passionate about qualitative research in general, and giving me this opportunity to speak about my passion it makes me very happy. It is something that I'm excited to share about my experiences and also learn from others, because as a qualitative researcher, it's extremely important to have a growth mindset and being able to open and learn from everyone who comes across. So I think this is a great opportunity. I have been reading a lot about what all wonderful things you are doing at Qualz and what you are planning to do in the future. So looking forward to it, and also maybe support, contribute any possible way I can in your progress. So thank you for the opportunity. So in terms of like what brings me to UX research, I want to begin with a little bit of my background, like what is, why I came to UX research, and also how my interdisciplinary background has contributed to my particular approach and thinking and towards research. So I bring like over a decade-long experience in design research and user experience research, and I worked in SaaS, which is a software as a service space, and worked with New Relic and Truckstop mainly, and in hardware space. You mentioned I worked with Lenovo, and design and marketing research space as well. So before coming into the industry, I worked in academia at Arizona State University and taught design research and industrial design courses to masters and undergrad students. And I feel that my academic background, it's very interdisciplinary. It's architecture, industrial design, new product innovation, and most recently my PhD, which is like design research and very deep focus on anthropological research practices and specifically global ethnography. So it all comes into the play. It all I put everything into action when I approach a research project. And I absolutely, this world of product experiences and how users interact with different products and software, it just interests me tremendously. And that's why I think I'm completely focusing on SaaS right now. And I feel that in today's UX research world, especially the qualitative research is the most successful when it's contextualized and built upon a variety of, data organizations and gathering and connections. Because I feel companies gather data, lot of data. We all know, you know that very well, that like product usage data and marketing data and, post-launch and general availability feedback and variety of customer, support data, and further aligning research goals and objectives with product and business goals. It's extremely important, and qualitative research especially plays that, like a crucial connection between this yin and yang, like what users want and what want. So these both forces, how do you put them into action? How do they speak with each other? And that's where experience research plays a crucial role. And I think that's in general my approach, and I will stop here. But this is a brief introduction, and I think I explained enough how passionate I am about building these connections between these yin and yang forces.
Yeah, that's a very interesting way to put it together, right? So where is the needs coming from, and what can we do from a product services perspective, right? And I also very much resonate with the technological side of it. So I came in from a technical background, but realized over and over again how important just understanding who's going to be using the product, right, and what is their perspective is. And it's very refreshing to hear this perspective where you can think of it as like two pieces sort of coming together perfectly, and that's where the research actually brings them together, right? I think we also share that background from Arizona State, which is also very interesting. So I was there until like 2020. So we might have crossed paths.
Yeah.
Yeah. So lots of our listeners are actually either from the qualitative research field or from some technical field, specifically like AI, right? And lots of interdisciplinary folks, right, that try to navigate both of these worlds. Like myself now. So the more I work in this field, it's really about getting insights by talking to people, understanding how they complete a project or need they have, right? So the more variety I start to see into even the methods and techniques within it, right? So I was also reading some of your work on the visual methods, right? Very insightful pieces there. So I understand like UX research is fundamentally related or a type of sort of qualitative research, right? But I mean, there's so much more to it, so much nuance, because we are researching how people make sense of technology, how they navigate technology, right? So how do you see the distinction between like qualitative research and like UX research as it's currently done?
Yeah, no, that's a very great question. I feel user experience research is an extension of all different design research or marketing research that we do, but it comes with the specific focus, that is how can we improve the engagement and usability of the product, but how we interact with products, how we adopt to them, how we respond to them, how we make them part of our lives is also very much driven by our cultural backgrounds and our upbringing and our thinking. That's why there are so many anthropologists who work in the field of user experience research. There are so many psychologists who work in this field, because it's all about understanding users, their mental models, their what contributes to using certain feature in a certain way, the context of it, absolutely a person sitting, I recently worked with truck stops, or maybe a truck driver sitting in the US, maybe somewhere in the Kentucky, will be using the product differently than the one who is sitting in the southern part of India, suppose like in Chennai. So what are
Mm,
differences, what impacts those differences, and how can we inform organizations better to deeply understand their users so that they can deliver more catered solutions, because
mm,
ultimately goal here is to building experiences that can make your users happy, that can engage them best possible way, that can make their lives easier. And people these days have a lot of options, everyone has a lot of options, we know that. And
right.
consumerism is driven on those fundamentals. So that's why investing in research is so crucial, because it just gives you that competitive edge. It gives you, it positions better when it comes to driving the success, product success. And I don't know if I answered your question correctly, but these are like kind of my perspectives, and this is how I feel UX research is different from other research.
Yeah, that is really insightful, and also just the notion that we have to also understand the cultural and life context, basically, of the people that are using the product, right? Because it's not very obvious. We all come with certain types of biases that we built over time, right? Especially as like engineers, even designers, right? So we come up with a product that we think solves the problem, but then it might be interpreted in a very different way, right? So that's where we need to kind of fit. Going back to your yin yang analogy, that puzzle pieces, right? So each piece has to fit with other, and usually the software piece is much easier to sort of like change and then make sure it fits the user's perception. So that's really insightful. And I know that you write about like the cultural syndromes and then visual methods and stuff like that, right? So are there more techniques of that understanding the other puzzle piece, which would be like how the user will perceive the
Yeah,
applications or the software you built? Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, really, yeah. Interesting. I think our users will also like to learn, or our listeners rather, will also like to learn what methodology. There are so many different ways you can approach doing the user research. And what have you found like successful? Like what methodologies do you keep going back to, right? And we already talked about some of the fundamental goals of user research, but do you have any like tactical sort of like advice on how to what sorts of methodologies work really well in the context of maybe like SaaS design?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And first of all, I want to begin with this, like qualitative research cannot exist in a bubble. It is
Mm-hmm.
needs to be combined with, strategically with other types of, data and the
Mm-hmm.
and the, like research approaches. That's when you drive the maximum impact. And then as a researcher, it's very important to understand what is the product goal, what are the product object, what are the project objectives, what are the business goals, and how can I leverage qualitative research best possible way to drive impacts in those spaces. So we there are like very bread and butter methodologies like interviewing, and like which forms foundation of many methods, like including ethnography, cognitive walkthroughs, moderated usability testing, diary studies. So there are some methods which are like very specific, and we can use them effectively in user experience research. But this particular focus on dealing with ambiguity, being able to create, collaborating with your stakeholders, because many a times when engineers or market or somebody from the sales or marketing or even the leadership, they do not have a clear understanding of what kind of research they want to do. So what that is, it becomes my responsibility to advise them best possible way, like how can you want to achieve this, but this is right now probably the temporary achievement that
Mm-hmm.
you do. But in terms of like more long term solutions, maybe this type of methodology or research will be more valuable for you. And those stakeholder, hand holding and that those discussions, scoping discussions are extremely crucial. And I feel as you grow as a in your experience as a user experience researcher, you get more and more stronger in that area. But to go back to your methodology question, I mean, there are like qualitative research in general
Mhm.
produce actual outcomes. Like there are like in terms of notes and interview transcripts, and like unlike quantitative methods, we produce like there is it's not objective data. Like it's not, those are not numerical outcomes. So
Mhm.
quality approaches when it comes to data analysis are also deeply rooted in strategic dot connecting and holistic systems
Right.
thinking, and like sense making, etc., for analysis. So based on the analysis, the researcher delivers users mental models and frameworks and nuanced user insights and like action recommendations, etc., which is different from the other types of research usage data, or like the quantitative feedback, anything that we gather. So no matter whatever methodologies you use, it is extremely important to pause and think about why you are using that method, how you
Mm.
that method, what kind of outcomes or what kind of data that method is going to produce, and how it's going to help you to make the decisions. Not only you, but your cross-functional team, your company, and then only like you can drive maximum impact. Um, it's not an easy.
Mm.
I cannot talk about all qualitative methods, but if you have this foundational, like a framework, you can build upon it. That's what I
Okay.
think.
Yeah, that's very insightful. So really, like it shows the nuances and the intricacies of being a UX researcher as well in like a very fast moving, especially like a software world, right? Or anywhere else, because there are so many stakeholders, right? So there are not just the engineers, the designers, but there's also the strategy where the company is trying to go and what the user is trying to achieve, right? So bringing all them together sounds like it's a big part of being a UX researcher is like just being able to switch your mindset and understanding everybody's perspectives and goals, aligning it with the strategy. Yeah, sounds like very interesting and also like a complex work process to navigate through that, right? And methodology wise, I guess just like being grounded in what you're trying to achieve in terms of that whole spectrum while trying to move the ship forward, basically, right? And that helps you choose what methodologies. Yeah, I've always found that just having an understanding of your tool set, right? So all the different techniques that you mentioned, just having that understanding, that would be your background and your training, and then you can start to connect, like, okay, in this situation, right, I would use like X, Y, and Z technique. Yeah, that's really insightful. Um, so from more of a day-to-day kind of like practical perspective, maybe thinking back to, like a complex project that you had or something, are there any specific stages? I know like usually people like to break down a research project into, like data collection, like stakeholder interviews, right? Are there any particular stages where you find it particularly like fraught with challenges? And in your experience, right? So, what is the main driver? Is it like time? Is it cost? Is it like resource constraints?
Yeah, I mean, great question. And I just going back to like our previous discussion, I also want to add, like as a qualitative researcher, there is a tremendous amount of focus on craftsmanship, like being able to
Mm,
talk about negotiation, persuasion, and dealing with ambiguity, but also being able to implement each phase correctly, being able to focus on details, not letting anything fall through the cracks. And
mhm,
tools especially really help in that space a lot. But now going back to your question, I see there are like three main challenges. Like I can talk about is first challenge is the kind of mindset that I bring is collaboration with your stakeholders. So when you
mhm,
scoping the project and gathering and sharing data like video clips and interview scripts, quotes, etc., that you're gathering from your participants, it's extremely important to involve your stakeholders into
mhm,
into the data collection, data scoping, data analysis process. So so softwares need to make these collaborations very easy. Like it should be very easy for the stakeholders to quickly go and add a comment, or being able to quickly access this information without messing it up. Because I have been in situations where somebody came, I didn't control their access level,
Right.
and they deleted all my codes.
Oh no.
It has happened previously. So how do you maneuver through these challenges without
Right.
creating boundaries? Like very these you want to democratize research, you want everyone to engage, and like research is never a black box, especially quality research. That's what my thinking is. So I mean, when you having like more robust collaboration strategies can be extremely valuable, because you work with managers, product managers may have little bit of more understanding of these tools, but when you work with data science team, a data scientist may not understand what this is about. How do you make their onboarding and interaction, maybe creating more like targeted learning experiences for them to quickly learn tools and use them effectively for the best like a possible outcome? Those will be very valuable. That is one challenge I feel, and there are a lot of growth opportunities in that area. The second challenge I feel is approach to data analysis, because data analysis is a multi-layered process. I talked about craftsmanship. So basically you go work on surface level, and you go deep and deep and deep, and you basically you are discovering nuanced layers from that you're interacting with. So you are coding the data, you are building the categories, you are building insights, and these are like core parts of data analysis process. So having an easy and quick access to whiteboarding tools, or like collaborate sense making sessions with the stakeholders, like you can quickly be able to host those sessions from your qualitative tool, or also like quickly ability to sketch some journey mapping and jobs to be done kind of frameworks. That it's very crucial. Like data analysis is one part, and as a researcher, I believe there is an extensive amount of work that goes in data analysis, but those are the skeletons that I hide in the closet. I don't share those skeletons, and I don't scare my stakeholders by showing them, okay, this much work has gone into developing this particular insight, and now I want to work with you to convert it into actionable recommendation. So it's very important, like how can these tools give you these variety of options, so that you grow and invite everyone to be part of this process. I think that's the second challenge. And the third challenge I feel is, and I remember we talked about this in the past as well, the participant management and like tracking with qualitative software. Would love to have something like a dashboarding or some kind of those kind of tools where I'm able to track my panel participants. I'm able to track who participated when, based on their specific demographic specifics, that I would choose them to take part in certain types of research. I have certain dashboard outcomes. I can build those, share those with stakeholders. There are some tools which do that, but when you work on the smaller research teams, where I have so we had a very like a shoestring a budget, and we couldn't afford to invest in multiple different types of tools for different types of activities within research process. So how can have that flexibility, like you are doing a heavy qualitative research, but you also are able to manage that research ops part as well, would be very important. I think these are some challenges I feel we will dive into, I know, like in terms of using AI for sense making and all those things, but these are like high level challenges that I have experienced, and I've used multiple different types of tools, starting from MaxQD and NVIDIA to the latest tools. So some thoughts here.
Yeah, very interesting. What you're saying is there's a whole lot of like core analysis that you spend a lot of time with the data, do all that exploration, but also sounds like the challenges over the whole entire journey management, right, from participants, because there's so many moving pieces there. Which participants do I choose? And everything leads you down, might potentially lead you down a different path, right? So it's very, and you cannot go back very easily to say, what if I did like another cohort, right? So that asking that what if is very challenging. I think that's a great segue into AI, right? So, AI has been coming up, and we are really excited about like the role of AI, but we're also very cautious, right? Trying to figure out where exactly does AI fit into this sort of very human process of, because ultimately we're trying to understand humans, and we are trying to use AI to help us maybe better understand humans, which is a little bit it's when you think about it, it's a little bit weird because you're like, hey, humans, but how do we use AI? But then the scope of like the process as well as the scale at which we'd like to do this research, right? And the size of the teams, right? So it's really important from those aspects, but also from a speed perspective, right? How can we not compromise on the quality of our understanding or the rigor of our processes, but at the same time be able to move at the pace that the world is moving in, which is sometimes it is crazy, right? So I love the approach of like breaking down this into like the various steps and then coming like talking about the challenges. So how have you or used AI in your process, or how do you envision, right, where AI will genuinely sort of make a difference in this process, right? Apart from all the hype and, like the little things that it can do, right? Where do you think it's like genuinely helpful?
Yeah, great question. I feel that having these variety of options and tools available to me, it's a dream come true. But I
Mm-hmm.
want to share one example here.
Yeah.
In 2022, there was this artist called Jason Allen. You may have heard about him.
Mm.
He is a Colorado-based artist, and he won the Colorado State Fair's Fine Arts competition. And he used AI program Midjourney to create the image, which he named is like a Theatre di Opera Speciale. So it's I might
Mm.
so, but he created that particular picture. So it sparked a lot of controversy, and he actually won the prize, and it sparked a
Mm.
lot of controversy and debate around like definition of art. What are the boundaries or limitations around usage of AI? What is authenticity? What is originality? And all those things. But in reality, Jason, Allen, he spent 90 plus hours in creating that painting
Wow.
using AI. So if that, as an artist, he exactly knew what outcomes he wanted. He exactly knew how to use AI to get those results and outcomes, and and he got the results that he envisioned. So just using AI for is not important. That oversight of that expert oversight and having that
Right.
expertise to use all those tools effectively to drive the best outcome is extremely important
Mm.
thing I feel. And when it comes to AI tools, it's very important to understand different persona. They are expert researchers. They are, there are different levels of experiences within research. You also have stakeholders who might also be using these AI tools to do certain types of research. For example, product managers do customer interviews all the time. So how can we, how can we minimize the risk of doing
Mm-hmm.
search wrong by helping them to ask better questions, by once you maybe researcher can work with them and identify the right goals and objectives and give them some definitive guidelines around what type of questions are not leading, what type of questions you should ask, and then they use these AI tools to build these questions. This is happening already. AI tools are recommending questions, and
Mm-hmm.
and it happens in interviews and surveys. I love the focus on sentiment analysis and being able to the content analysis, because these tools can quickly amplify the impact of your qualitative research. So I love the use of that. I think it's really great. I love the different ways we are able to code the data because of AI. So when I've seen that when I have a transcript ready in my qualitative research tool, I will have some recommendations in terms of like, okay, so this paragraph, it might have these different types of findings. So there are
Mm-hmm.
that immediately pop up. But what I see these the alignment between my goals and objectives and the recommendations given to me by the AI outcome, there is still a lot of gap. How can we
Mm-hmm.
minimize that gap more by like training and ensuring that my AI tools that I'm using are understanding what I want to gain from this research quickly and being able to provide. We are going in that direction. We are very much
Right.
heading in that direction. But these are certain opportunities that I see very much as possibilities. I love the focus on efficiency and scalability here, because many a times you do research projects, you're coding, and the codes that you use for project, there is a possibility for cross pollination. You can use those same codes for other projects, and then you
Right.
can back and look everything at a very bird's eye perspective. You are also able to dive in and work at very nitty gritty details. I love these flexibilities, and this all happens in the in no matter of time. Like it's very quickly.
Very
I really
fast.
like
Yeah.
this flexibility. Yeah. So I think we are heading in the right direction, but there is room to grow, and I think I'm sure you are already in that space, so you probably are envisioning those paths of improvements as well.
Yeah, very aware and very aligned, attuned to exactly this. And I love the example about the artist that spend a whole lot of time on creating the art, right? So at the end of the day, it is a tool. You're not creating like brushstrokes, but you're still creating the vision, the motivation, you're doing the editing, you're guiding the AI, right? Very much looking for a future where, the AI learns the mental model, the goals, in context and very quickly, right? So it's much more of a collaborative effort. So it's not just about enhancing the scale, which is great, right? But also about how it's like truly a collaborator or um, like a research assistant, so to speak, right? That learns with you and is you can train it like in context. I think the AI of today is very monolithic in a sense because it comes to you with a particular perspective. You can't really change its mind, right? You can give it some hints and stuff like that. But definitely, that's we're aligned that that's the kind of future that we are headed towards. And we should be designing that kind of future. Also, very interesting perspective on the multiple perspectives, right? Because you can take a work and then now with the help of AI, you can not only go through like one line and then say, what if I would have gone back and done it a different way, right? Now you've already thought about this kind of process, so you can actually have it go in parallel. So just having this intelligence sort of at the edge and your fingertips is really interesting. Intelligence as in like whatever level, the AI intelligence of today is just being able to have multiple of these and give you 20 ideas or 20 analysis instead of one, right? And then combining, I think a very interesting approach to collaboration. Yeah, so uh, some last question before we can open up for audience questions. So please, if you guys have any questions, you can send it on Q&A and we'll start reading it in just a little bit. So my last question was on ethics, right? So I think you touched upon this a little bit in terms of the artist, right? So yeah, whose art is that at the end of the day, right? Or how do we bring in this cultural nuance. So you talk about culture a lot, right? And then AI might not be there where it doesn't have lived experience basically of like living in the world, right? It has just read about it, so to speak, right? So what are like some of the ethical implications you see of like as AI comes in and just works in our process more and more for user research?
Yeah. Yeah, that's I mean, these are like there is a lot of work being done, and there are like these big companies who are, like basically leading the way right now when we are focusing talking about AI and ethics. I think it is extremely important to constantly make sure for everyone who is involved in that process, maybe it is a researcher, engineer, developer, whoever it is, and constantly ask the questions like who is included and who is excluded. It's extremely crucial, because ultimately, there are variety of people who are going to interact with AI tools. They, depending on their expertise in qualitative research, they would be, leveraging the AI tools. So so it really very much becomes the responsibility of the creators of the tools to make sure
Mhm.
that you are guiding them to the right place. I think that is where my mind goes. Especially when I worked on the product diversity office at Lenovo and high risk projects, high risk technologies. The focus, or when you work in fintech or you want work in healthcare, it's extremely important. One way I have used AI tools is, like when you work in different domains, and when you do the interviews with the participants, you necessarily, I cannot be an expert of every domain. I cannot be an expert in logistics and transportation. I cannot be an expert in fintech, but I will bring my research expertise and I will rely on the experts in that field. Typically these are product owners and product managers, engineers, to help me to build better, to projects. So how can I be more bring that more conscious perspective to the table would be very important, whom I am including, excluding. But this is where I will pause. But this should be the main thing, like whom you are including and whom you are excluding, making sure that how your outcomes are going to, what kind of impacts your outcomes are going to create. I will give you a simple example. If I am a product manager, I want to talk to truck driver in probably California, California is a breeding ground of fraud, and
Mhm.
I want to make sure that and he that particular truck driver comes from certain ethnic background. What would be the type of question that I need to ask to that truck driver? What should be the language, and can AI give
Right.
me recommendation without influencing me or tipping my perspective one way or the other? That can be one example. That
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think like these are some of the things we'll continue to discover because we have this new generation of AI, which is sort of like generally intelligent in a lot of different areas, much more so than, we can be experts in one area, but it is better at speaking another language than we are, right? A language we don't know, or it is better at maybe also understanding the perspective of some of the people that we have never interacted with, just because of how much massive amounts of data. At least it'll be better than us, right? It won't be the experts or something, but that's really interesting application. It makes me think about just the language barriers and for conducting research, right? And how efficient it can make it. I have so many questions that I can go through. Especially also, I was interested in learning about sense making and the visual aspect. I know you have done some research on that, on the visual aspect of it, like visualizations. How do we navigate this crazy amount of analysis that might they'll start to come out, right? In terms of, okay, we use AI, and instead of getting one idea or one perspective, we're getting like 50 now, right? It's endless. But how do we navigate all of that and then bring it into, I guess that's kind of a future trends type question, right? Do you have something to say about that? Um, yeah.
Oh, can you please repeat that? I think I
Yeah, so
you.
because like now we will have AI assistant, let's say, at our fingertips, right? And we can look at research from multiple perspectives, and actually it might look like a blessing, but it might actually drown us in like more analysis type data, right? Because we can get more and more perspectives, and then it might never finish the work because we are like, I'm constrained by my own process. Do you have any tips on like, I know you have done some work on the visual aspect of things, right? I'm a visual thinker myself, right? Any kinds of like visualizations that you like in terms of analysis that can maybe simplify the process a
Yeah.
little bit?
Yeah, I absolutely love the whiteboarding activities, like when especially
Mm,
coding or going through the data. I tell you, qualitative research is a very time consuming process, especially the data
right.
analysis. Driving an impact means being like deep diving into your data, and like discovering those patterns, and building those extremely powerful insights. It's a process. So how can AI help me, the best possible way in that space? So I would say that I love the coding part of it, and like being able to code. You and sometimes there are multiple 150 or 200 different types of coding techniques
Oh,
that we
wow.
use.
Yeah.
And there is this, especially when you're talking about grounded theory and like the coding techniques. Many a times you code your first like an interview transcript. You go to the
Hmm.
move second, you move to the third, you may come back to the first two again, you realign and
Right.
redefine your codes. So it is very helpful in the AI tools to see the history of what you have changed, and like um,
Mm,
how where you were and where you are right now. So those kind of things are extremely useful. I talked about cross pollination too, like being able to use codes in one like interview or one
right.
for many other projects, because sometimes you're extremely lucky if you get a couple of weeks after you wrap up the project to deliver the report. Usually it
Got
happens
it. Yeah.
like,
Hmm.
yeah. And it also depends on the maturity, UX research maturity of the company. So how can AI tools empower UX researchers best possible way to function in different types of contexts? The companies with lower UX research maturity versus the companies with higher UX research maturity
Mm,
in both spaces. The companies with lower research maturity, the day I wrapped up the project, I will get the question. So when are we going to see the top level findings? Can we see that immediately? So maybe like today is your last interview. By tomorrow, can you just show us like what you have found out? It's very fast paced environment, and you have to keep up to it. So
right.
so like, and then in that sense my approach is usually like I'm very open about, yeah, these are very high level findings, but these may evolve, these may change, but these are like high level patterns that I'm finding. So when you work on research, especially and data analysis, you cannot work in phased approach. You have to do many different things simultaneously.
Mm,
You're analyzing your data at the same time, and you're maybe like starting to understand some patterns, building some insights simultaneously as well. So how can
hmm.
AI tools empower you to speed fast this process? And like that's very important. So the whiteboarding and being able to quickly put some thoughts together, playing around with some prioritization frameworks. I talked about journey mapping. I talked about jobs to be done
Right.
simultaneously, and it really helps. Like on one side I have my text and codes, and on the other side of the screen, like split screen, and I have like my whiteboarding this thing open, and I'm quickly able to play around and group codes together, or group some codes together, and build my patterns quickly or insights quickly. It really helps. It's a very playful and very engaging process, but having these hands-on tools is very helpful.
Yeah, that's super insightful. So you mentioned it's not just about the end goal of like coming of it is it's about the process, right? And how the research evolved over the process and just having that
Yeah,
longitudinal sort of view of your actual process and also supporting this exploration like a slow lane, so to speak, going back to like Kahneman's like slow and fast thinking, right? And having these like quick insights, but then just being able to also kind of go through that exploration where you won't miss any of the very aha moments or like the long tail insights, so to speak, right? So that's really interesting. So we do have some audience questions, so we can go into those a little bit if that's okay.
Yeah, sure,
Okay.
absolutely.
All
I
right.
think that's a good time.
All right. So there's one question about how can AI, so this is really interesting. How can AI predict user behavior or preferences with more accuracy? And how can researchers validate those predictions? I'll add a little bit of my take on this as well. So we are exploring these things called like AI audience. I recently posted about that, right? So we are approaching this very, very cautiously. So just recently, like one of the big AI model providers like Anthropic released something that will control your computer, right? And then it'll do all those things for you. I was just playing with it the other day, and it'll go and download like new software on your computer, right? Install it and do something and log in and all that kind of stuff. So it's like really cool to look at, but it's also kind of scary, right? And that made me think about our this conversation we're gonna have, and then the fact that, hey, now I can give AI like some tasks and then make it go through my application and try to achieve those tasks, right? Yeah, depending on the complexity of the tool, it's going to be pretty interesting insights you can get out of it. But at the same time, it is an AI doing it, right? It is not a human. It is not that user that you're targeting, right? No matter how much persona you give it. So I think this question also asks about how can we use AI to maybe do some of the research with these like AI like audiences or something, and where does it fit in?
Yeah, yeah. Again, I said like your oversight sits on the top, and it has to sit on the top in terms of like
Mm,
researcher. I mean, I love this having like using the synthetic data and using these kind of audiences, having quick access to that kind of those kind of tools or opportunity. It's great, but how? I mean, let me put it this way: like, what kind of decisions are you making using that data? Do you need
mm-hmm,
to triangulate or supplement that data with other types of data to improve the validity and reliability of that information? I think it's very crucial, and this is all about that driving, making, minimizing the bias in the data outcomes, and then
mm-hmm,
like how do you work with the ecosystem of types of data, ecosystem of tools, and opportunities to drive the maximum impact of your research. And it is at various levels, at the project level, at the team level, at at the organization level, and even like shaping the roadmaps and the business trajectories. So
mm-hmm.
there are a lot of different dimensions that come into the play. So when it comes to, I also see like user behavior and preferences. You may call me old school, but I do believe that um, creating your research plan, ensuring your project goals, your research goals and objectives are right on spot. All
Mm-hmm.
stakeholders are aligned, and they exactly know there are not there, so they know exactly what kind of research it is, what kind of sampling strategies we are implementing, what kind of outcomes we may get. So there are no surprises in the end, and there is maximum open-mindedness towards accepting those insights with best possible way. You work on those things very much early on, and that's where your expertise as a UX research leader comes into the play. So when you have everything very well detailed out early on, I think rest all just falls in place. Rest all just follows the execution and ability to drive that flexibility, because when you execute, not everything is going to happen 100% the way you envisioned. How you
Mm-hmm.
drive that flexibility, like how you drive that agility without compromising on the quality and validity of the data is important. So I think it also answers the question like how can AI predict user behavior or preferences with more accuracy. If you have more work put in early on, why not? It's possible.
Right, right. Yeah, so that's really yeah, interesting, right? So we have all these tools and ways to amplify our reach, but everything has to come from this framework that you set at the very beginning, right? This is my objectives. This is the kinds of questions I want to answer, and then now you have like additional tools, which is not that different and additional sources of data, but then it gives you sort of gauge to evaluate, like, is this useful for me, right? Is this not useful for me? What new thing am I learning from this, and how can I validate it with something else, like some like primary source of truth, which might be a limited set of users you have with the limited time you have, and you might get all these like interesting insights, and it does it align with my objective? Can I validate it? So yeah, that's
Yes.
really interesting. So let's look at a couple of more questions. I've questions trickling in like in different platforms, so I'm just like looking around. So one question is, do you think AI can accurately capture and prioritize user-reported issues for QA, quality assurance, without missing important nuances? Uh, Potentially, this goes back to like, what is the mental model of the user, right? Does AI have an accurate one, right? What are your thoughts on that? Maybe using some of the tools in your experience.
Yeah, I mean that's where the qualitative research comes into the play. Like, I mean, I've been like kind of beating the same drum. Like, you gather
Right,
so much variety of data, and recently you also published some articles on your platform about the recent election and how
right.
where who why a certain like a party failed to provide deliver a solution that was fit to the market. I mean that's where things like how well do you understand your users? How well
Right.
you like what is like it's a nuanced, deepest level of understanding across different contexts, across different situations, across different pain points, and also across different possibilities. And how do you
Mm-hmm.
train your model with all like infuse your model with all that detailed, customized, personalized data to
Mm-hmm.
come up with the best possible insights which are tailored to be successful with certain types of users. I mean, that's where it all comes in, right?
Right. Yeah, again, it possibly also goes back to how can you have these AI tools that learn as you go, and you can actually instruct it, right? Or change its mind, so to speak, right? And just much above and beyond just adding in prompts or something, right? How can you have it actually understand what's going on and learn from it on the fly? So I think that's going to be a pretty important direction. And we're also very passionate about that collaboration piece, where you can come, like AI can come in and sort of like adapt to what you're doing, or change its understanding, so to speak, right, and not be very obstinate. So one more question I got, I think this is more on the where the field of UX is go, or UX itself is going, rather than user research specifically. But I like the tone of the question. So we have this world where it is changing a little bit from more visual sort of sense making through an application where everything is already pre-configured, to more like, hey, ask me anything, right? Kind of chatbot like experiences where the search is done by the chatbot. There are agents, right? So I think that's where the world is going, in that you don't really necessarily have to have everything defined in an interface. You ask a question. If it's not possible, they'll tell you it's not possible, or try to do it on your behalf, right? Also go into the back to the thing about an AI controlling a computer on your behalf, right? So do you have any like thoughts on where this is going, and how might we as like researchers think about UX research, or UX in general, where the pattern itself is changing of like sense making and getting things done?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you talked about chatbot. I particularly I want to just go back to this. I when we do research, you just deal with so much amount of data. There is so much history.
Right.
You're doing projects for years. Being able to search and having a chatbot and ask chatbot about a question about certain type of data that you have gathered sometime in the past, and like
Right.
it's like, and it spits out quickly to you. That's like a dream come true. It saves so much time and energy, like that. So history and searchability, it's obviously it's wonderful. That also is related to UX. I do also
Mm-hmm.
feel that we live in the world of algorithms. We live, everything is driven by algorithm. New algorithms are released every day. And the way that experience and speeding up compared to how different types of users, maybe a truck driver's understanding and adoption of the algorithm will be very different than a DevOps engineer.
Right, right,
And
right.
so how are you, understanding the learnability, perception, and like adaptability of
Mm,
opportunities? How are you building your communication strategies when it comes to UX, to make sure that those algorithms that people are receiving these experiences with open mind. They are
right.
pretend that they are not scared, but they are actively and like participating into these activity. That I think that is another opportunity for UX that I feel, a growth opportunity for UX, and research can play a huge role in that. And the UX, how to teach these things with in layman terms without confusing and
Right.
your customers or users, and also understanding the important touch points in the user journey. Where are those what are the pain points, and where are those drops where users are struggling. You have a lot of different tools. You have Pendo and you have Full Story, where you can look at the users product end-to-end journey, and how can you use all those different types of data to identify where the why can help me the most to drive the deepest
Mm.
meaning of my user. I think that level of strategic thinking, both for UX designers and researchers, is going to be a game changer in the future.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. I mean, this we might treat like chatbots or ask me anything type interfaces as like fundamentally different, and it's completely controlled by the user. But it's kind of not, right? Because how does the AI respond, or how does the system help you navigate the process, and how does it fit in with your own sense making of the world, and how do you ask questions, right? So many interesting threads here. I mean, I can go on and on, but like this is we're headed into the hour mark. So, any last thoughts for the for our listeners, and how can people find you?
I am on LinkedIn. I am available on Medium.
Nice. Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to engaging. One last moment, and I think one last thought I want to share is qualitative research cannot exist in the bubble. It needs to be part of the ecosystem of different types of data, and it is very important with the AI, leveraging variety of data like social media analysis, AI powered data analysis, data collection for web and
Mm,
mobile, like use of virtual reality as a creative method sometimes to gather some unique type of data, or in the moment data collection, and
mm,
analytics, and research democratization and evangelization. How do you, because delivering research report is just the beginning of your is it's just the beginning of changing people's mind. How do you advocate for those insights using variety of AI tools, for example, democratization tools, at different tables, right, from your cross-functional team members to the leadership, to the executive leadership, to the board members of the company. How do you advocate for those insights, and how do you take the responsibility of converting those insights into impacts and actual tangible experiences is also our responsibility. And UX research
right.
not been focusing on that area much, but we really need to step up our game and build strong muscles in that area, I feel.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for those last thoughts, and really heard you on the context piece, right? So it's not just like a little piece, right? That's isolated somewhere, and then a report comes out, and that's it, right? So many interconnections there. The more we can facilitate it from the software world or any tools that we're building, right? The whole journey, the better. And lots. So it gave me lots for myself and our team to think about, and also I'm sure like there's lots and lots of other threads that our listeners will have. So we'll post it on YouTube soon. And then thank you so much for your time, Dr. Renu, and then we'll stay connected as always. Thank you.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure, and I loved our conversation. Thank you so
All
much.
right. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.